1, 2, 3.
Hi, guys.
One,
Hello,
two,
everybody
three.
in the pre-show.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. DCTF Live, going up on a Tuesday, October 27th, 2015. Episode 7, if you're paying attention, if you're keeping score at home. My name is Greg Tepper, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Sitting over to my right, looking way colder than he should in a Sochi jacket with his well-coiffed
Is this not Sochi?
with his well-coiffed $900 haircut.
900
is Max
This
Thompson.
price is inflating by the day.
It's going to happen every day too. It's gonna happen. Big show on deck. Going to be joined a little later by the head coach, the head Husky at El Paso Chapin. It is Rene Hernandez getting out there in the Sun City.
It's going to be fun.
You know,
It's
when I was emailing with him back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
I had to remember that they're on Mountain Time Zone. And so I almost told him, hey, we're going to call you about 12:15. So he'd be sitting there.
Yeah.
He'd be sitting there thinking he's got an hour, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden his phone
Ring.
rings. Yeah. But
Hey,
I
Coach.
did remember. But first of all, we are very happy to be joined for the first time in studio.
Yeah.
You know him, you love him from ESPN 103.3 FM in Dallas. He puts up with Tim Cowlishaw on a daily basis. It is Matt Mosley. Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for stopping
Yeah.
by. It's funny. You do, of course, bleed Baylor green and gold.
Yeah.
And it's
Does
funny.
that come across?
When we talked last week about getting you on the show, I was thinking, oh, okay, we can come in and talk about Baylor's, Big 12 chances. I wonder if there's going to be anything interesting to talk about from Baylor perspective. And sadly for Bear fans, there's plenty to talk about. Seth Russell, the quarterback for Baylor, now out for the year. They turn to Jarrett Stidham. So I guess my first question is, how you holding up?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a heavy heart that I show up today.
Yeah, it's a tough
But
thing.
you're wearing black, so.
Yeah, it's like he's shown up to a funeral.
I am a little bit in mourning, although I sort of I'm buying on the backup quarterback in the situation and in Jarrett Stidham. But like Art and like all these announcements, my focus first of all is to talk about Seth Russell and the fact that I sort of loved what he brought. And something that concerned Art at times a little bit, the edge that he played with and the fact that he would go into the end zone and sort of laugh at whoever was trying to chase him. I didn't think that was necessarily the worst thing at that position. And I thought he did play with a little different something than Bryce Petty, who is on one of these covers behind
right
us.
here.
And by the way, it's really fun to be with you guys because I grew up on this magazine. And Dave Campbell's, so his wife used to teach there at Baylor. And she taught my dad. My dad played football at Baylor in the late 60s. The John Bridgers. John Bridgers had a good era.
Yeah, he did.
And then it became a bad era. And my dad was part of the bad portion of that. And then they had a guy named Bill come along.
They did.
And then things got really
Mm-hmm.
ugly. So Dad chose to go to law school at that point. He gave up his final year of eligibility. and just moved along.
Yeah, Miss Reba, of course, Reba Campbell, Dave's wife, is of 60 years. Goodness gracious. Dave, of course, a Baylor grad himself, and I haven't talked with Dave, but I imagine I know that he was at when we did the cover shoot for 2014. Dave came out with us, and Art Briles. You talk about a guy who, the consummate Texan, he played football at Rural. He was a Rural Bobcat.
Yeah. And
then he goes and he coaches in high school, and then he kind of works his way up through the assistants ranks, and then comes to Houston, and then to Baylor, the consummate Texan. I'll say that, losing Seth Russell, I think you're right. He brought a certain moxie to the position that he wasn't afraid to take a hit, for better or for worse. It obviously ends up costing him the rest of the season. But if there is a coach in the state of Texas that you would say, okay, they're going to lose their starting quarterback and they still have a chance to be fine, it's probably Art Briles.
This is the place to be if you want your quarterback to get hurt. Is that?
Yeah,
that seems like a strange.
It's a strange way to put
things,
it.
But yeah, I think you're onto something, and I think if you surround a young, talented player with this many weapons and with this offensive line, I think you're right in the sense that, and I think it's good for them that they don't have to go back far. Like, coaches love to be able to point to teams that have overcome adversity such as this over the years. Well, it just happened in last year's national title run for Ohio State. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to look too far. And then I know one thing we're going to be talking about on our show on 103.3 FM ESPN today is the whole OU's done this before back in the day, and it was Troy Aikman who got hurt in the first month of the season, and there was a freshman named Jamil Holloway that came along. So it has been done, and I do think they're sort of equipped to do it. I just hate that Seth, I think when you have your maybe best shot ever at a national title, I mean, you want to have all your weapons firing, and I will say this, the last time they had somewhat of a shot at the national title was 2 years ago, and they went up to Stillwater, and we all remember what happened.
Correct.
And they had lost a couple of defensive players, and they'd lost an offensive lineman, and they were kind of, they were down. This feels different. This feels like they have a team that might be able to withstand this.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, literally every team that has won the college football playoff has won with their third-string quarterback. So, if anything,
solid stack.
Maybe Jarrett Stidham needs to go out and they need to pull in the third string. Maybe that's the recipe for success.
Which I believe is Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
They brought him back
from
playing wide receiver. Which, unless you're just like the most unbelievable wide receiver in the country, you're not going to get a lot of playing time at Baylor. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 guys that are going to get playing time, but it's hard to sort of crack that top 5. But yeah, I'm in the Stidham thing, and I love being on with you guys because y'all. I pay attention to high school football, but it's mainly Lake Highlands because that's where I live, and that's a struggle right now.
It is a struggle.
And then a team I'd like to see you guys do more on, especially
Kaufman. I saw those tweets.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kaufman Lions.
I don't think Greg follows me yet, but thank you. I really appreciate you following me on
Kaufman
Twitter,
tweets.
Max. Yeah.
Don't you worry.
No, I appreciate it.
I've been holding off.
Yeah, I know.
I've been
you
holding.
wanted to see how today was going to go.
I've been holding you hostage to come on the show before I follow you.
Yeah, I feel like you really are holding back on me.
Yeah.
Not to call you out on that.
That's
but,
fine.
But anyway, Stidham, I know there was a lot of excitement around Baylor. What I love about college teams, and college fans, is when they have a player, it's like the greatest thing in the world when they get a recruit. And then when Tech somehow lost him, I'm sure there's a whole story there that we won't get into. But I sense that the Tech fans all were like, well, he wasn't really that good.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you.
After they lost.
I'll tell you, and that's the beauty and the silliness of recruiting is that National Signing Day is, oh, look at this guy, he's great. Oh, he signed with our rival, so he's terrible.
Yeah.
It's definitely very partisan. And for me, as somebody who, doesn't have a dog in the hunt, I cover all 12 FBS teams in the state. I'm bummed because I really wanted to see full-strength TCU against full-strength Baylor. I think that was the game that if you don't have a dog in the hunt, or even if you do, I think that's the game everybody wanted to see. And although I think Jarrett Stidham's a great player, and I think that and I think that they have a chance to bounce back from this and still be fine, I think it's a bummer as just a football fan that we're not going to get to see full-strength TCU versus full-strength Baylor.
But to me, in some ways, this evens things out a little bit because TCU is not going to be at full strength because of that defense. And maybe Gary will continue to kind of turn things around on that side of the ball, but they're hamstrung on their defense. No matter what kind of miracles he works, they're down several players on the defense. Baylor now loses a Heisman candidate quarterback. And so in some sense, maybe this sort of evens the playing field. I didn't want to even the playing field.
You would have preferred,
Yes.
You would have preferred that it be
But
tilted.
I would be shocked. I don't know what you guys think, but if both teams remain unscathed when that game happens, because I think there are a lot of places you can. And TCU's they've had two incredible near misses. Or near losses so far.
And that's the thing is that, TCU still got to go to Norman, and all of a sudden Oklahoma looks like that loss to Texas only made them mad is really all that happened. And, Baylor's got to go to Oklahoma State, which is by no means no pushover. They haven't won there since the 20s. And then they have to go for Baylor, what strikes me is that they are entering really the heart of their schedule, and to lose, I wouldn't say the most valuable player, but maybe at least the guy who triggers it all at that time, if you were to lose them in the non-conference and you were to lose them maybe against Kansas, that's one thing. To lose them going into a stretch where in a matter of 13, in over the course of 13 days, you're playing in Fort Worth, in Stillwater, and home to Oklahoma. To me, that's a huge part of this as well.
Yeah. No, I think he's being thrown into an incredibly difficult situation.
So let me ask you now.
And that Texas game doesn't look. A lot of people were laughing at the Longhorns. I may have been part of that. Who knows? And now I like how Charlie Strong's name came up for another job. It's like that's coaching. 2 weeks removed from 3 weeks removed from let's run this man out of town. Who's next at Texas? And then you got somebody on, who was it, Brett McMurphy or whoever on ESPN basically saying, well, Charlie would listen if Miami comes calling. Why? Unless you're thinking I'll just use it as leverage to get more money, that doesn't seem like the right timing. 2 wins are nice for Texas, but I don't think Charlie's exactly thinking, hey, let's get another raise here. I think Charlie's going to need a few more wins before that. But Texas, and it's good for the conference for Texas to at least be competitive, because they did not look competitive against the Frogs a few weeks back.
He's Matt Mosley. Hear his fine work, on 103.3 FM ESPN in Dallas. Can't let you get away without talking some general Big 12. We're going to put you on the spot. You got to make a pick. Who's coming out of the Big 12 with the championship, as the one true champion?
Well, there's only the one true champion. Yeah. They still have that listed, don't they, on that one commercial? They don't say it as much anymore, but I think you can still see it.
Now, to be
the banners in Fort Worth for TCU, the Big 12 banners still say one true champion.
Now, to be fair, they did adjust the tiebreaker situation so that there will be quote unquote one true champion. So, if you were to pick one team in the Big 12 that you think is going to win the Big 12, sitting here, it's October 27th.
Yeah.
Nobody will hold you to it, although this is being recorded.
Well, this will, of course, people and TCU fans especially will think this is biased, but I still think Baylor has too much firepower and they've got back-to-back conference championships. The one team that scares me the most right now is not TCU. It's the team you mentioned. And going to Stillwater, I hate the thought of that, but that Oklahoma team, sort of something happened in that game, and they never lose 2 straight games under Stoops. So I am worried about that game, but it is at home. Baylor seems to play incredibly well at home. Stidham will have, at least a game under his belt by then. So, give me the Bears.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you?
Wow, you're going to make me make a pick? I think.
Yeah. No. I mean, you're not just a moderator here.
I'm going to stick. You're right. I'm going to stick with what we said in Dave Campbell's Texas Football in the preseason, and I'm sticking with the Frogs because if only because I've thought for a long time that the decisive factor in the Big 12 race was that Baylor had to go to Fort Worth. And Baylor away from McLean Stadium versus Baylor at McLean Stadium, I think, are two different animals. So I still think I don't think the Frogs run the table. I think that a loss in Norman is very possible, but I do think that they beat TCU, and then at that point, who the heck knows what happens with, who the heck knows what happens with Oklahoma in the tiebreaker situation. But I think the Frogs, by virtue of playing Baylor in Fort Worth at Amon G. Carter, I think that's what gives them the edge.
I sort of think that the Patterson-Bryles thing is one of the greatest things that
Isn't
ever
it
happened
great?
to the conference.
Isn't
to
it
have
great?
true, and you'll see them sometimes. They'll bring them up to Bristol and put them. They'll go take them through that car wash, and they have to sit on a couch together, and you can almost sense, what's going through their minds, and they have to sort of play nice in those situations, but in those relationships, what happens is you just get little passive-aggressive type shots back and forth. And Gary had it with the whole horrible situation with what happened at Baylor, and that's just incredible. And I know we're not getting into that today, but it's an embarrassing situation for Baylor. And even being alum, some of the things that happened in that case, just sickened me to the point where I did some real soul searching on, okay, when I go on the radio and talk about this, I'm not going to come across as like some sort of, I'm to defend Baylor on this. There are certain things you can't
It's hard to
defend.
do that,
But now Gary, and being Gary, when he had some issues, which admittedly weren't the end of the world, some players stole some beer from a fraternity party. I believe that's probably happened in the past.
Yeah.
And now they shouldn't have beaten them up.
Sure.
That's kind of an ugly
Just
scene.
take the Keystone Light.
But then, yeah. But address your team, and you don't really need to go, well, it's not anything like what's going on down south of us.
Well,
that was
me
such
tell
a passive aggressive.
as somebody who yearns for the days of the Southwest Conference, to see a coaching rivalry like we
you don't
had.
look old enough to
I
be
know.
like a Southwest Conference kid.
Look who I work for. I work for Dave Campbell's Texas
I know.
Football.
So you've at least
I am.
That's where I grew up.
The Southwest Conference is, to me, it's the greatest conference that ever existed. And so as a guy who yearns for it, one of the great underlying stories of that was that every coach tolerated each other and nothing more. That's what I liked about the Southwest Conference. And I wish, so having Art Briles and Gary Patterson battling back and forth is fun for me. I like the seething that goes on. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah,
That's just me.
I think it is fun, and I think doing this with you guys, this format is fun.
Hey.
I'm so used to.
All right.
Wasn't this endorsement?
No, and I'll bring it up on the radio today.
The
but
hostage den here isn't too scary.
I mean,
Is there anything you'd like to say to your kids?
That's right. I find the lighting in here is fine. I don't feel like a hostage, but in radio, there's a pacing that happens because a commercial's coming up at any
Right.
time, and
Yeah.
boom, it's about to happen.
Yeah.
We got
And
all
though y'all
day.
have all kinds of incredible sponsors on your site, we're not immediately interrupted. Oh my gosh, we got to stop. And so, but every time there's a pause between us, I do kind of think like I'm supposed to do a D&M leasing spot or something.
Are you
Yeah.
really
No, I
getting
think,
nervous?
hey, isn't it time for me to talk about a car?
Yeah.
Or where?
I'm glad you brought that up. Ozarka is a proud sponsor of DCTF Live.
This is really good water.
He
I
is
have to say that.
Matt
I've
Mosley.
enjoyed it.
Check out his fine work on 103.3 ESPN in Dallas, and follow him on Twitter as I am doing right now
It took you long enough.
at Matt Mosley.
Yeah.
Matt, appreciate you stopping by, man.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. Hope to do it again
Absolutely.
someday.
We definitely will. Well, the only thing we have to do now is that we have to get to our other guest. That's the only thing. You're welcome to stay on if you have any questions for El Paso
Can
Chapin
you push
head
him
coach
back to next week?
Rene Hernandez. We can't bump him.
There's some more Kaufman
Yeah.
Lion talk I wanted to do. But
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. As the person in charge of the 3A rankings, I'm
Hey, we got
open to
them
that.
ranked.
The 3A, 4A
Sir,
conference.
yes,
we
Class
can talk about
4A.
it.
We're
Yeah,
Class
let's see.
4A
We can
now.
talk about it.
I
Yes.
want to see where we've got
4A
them
and
ranked.
below is my department.
Yeah, that's your
so-
jam.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
No, yeah, we got Kaufman ranked, I believe.
We,
I've got Kaufman ranked. I'm not the problem. I believe.
Oh, here we go.
Matt was on Twitter talking about some other people's rankings.
Listen,
Yeah.
Kaufman, number 6 in 4A Division One.
Right, their only loss.
That was a great win over Athens last
It's
week.
just that the state rankings came out, and we were receiving like no others receiving votes, and yet there
Didn't
was
even get any.
Kennedale.
We have many friends who vote in the AP poll, and
Yeah.
so
We
I
do.
do not want to be.
We
I
don't
do not want to
besmirch
them.
them
Good
at
word.
all.
Besmirch them.
Yeah.
But
Hey, speaking of the AP poll, I know you don't need to get going,
No.
but there's a guy in San Jose Mercury News, and he votes in the college AP poll, and he had Baylor. So this
Like
man
19th.
hates the Big 12. He had Baylor 9th. They finished second in this last poll. He had TCU 13th. They were 5th. He had Oklahoma State 18th. They were 12th in this most recent poll. I'm just amazed.
I don't know. I personally think, I don't know if Baylor's the second best team in the country, but I can totally understand why they're ranked at number 2. Ranking them at number 9 makes zero sense to me, unless you're just a hopeless, partisan for one conference or another.
John Wilner is this guy's name.
We're calling
so
him out on the internet.
Reach out. It's on. Hey, it's all public.
Take
knowledge.
that, internet. And now, Matt, again, you're welcome to stay on if you have
Thank
any questions for Coach Hernandez. As we are joined on the phone now by the head coach of the El Paso Chapin Huskies. It is Coach Rene Hernandez. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well.
How are things out in El Paso?
They're going well. They're going like we would like for them to be going at this time of the season.
They the Huskies, of course, 8-1. They have rattled off 8 consecutive wins, looking excellent. Coach, at what point this season, or maybe in the off season, did you think, we've got a chance to do something special here?
I tell people all the time, I don't know if they believe me, but I thought I saw it in the off season, just the commitment by our kids. In the summer, our first day of summer workouts, including volleyball girls, we had 150 working out.
Goodness.
And that was pretty much the number that we had most of the summer. Incoming freshmen, like I say, also other sports, we put them all through our workouts. But we had quite a few that committed to what we were doing and believed in what we wanted to do.
It's Coach Rene Hernandez of the El Paso Chapin Huskies joining us on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation. Hashtag DCTF Live. And Coach, the guy that everybody is looking at out there, your outstanding wide receiver, Brandon Bullitt. He's having a phenomenal year, just a special talent. From your perspective as a coach, what is it about Brandon that makes him so special?
It's a combination of size, speed, football intelligence. He's a good-sized kid, and people don't think he's as fast as he is. So he's either going to catch it over the top of you, or if we throw it underneath, it's going to be a chore bringing him down.
He is something special out there. I've been very impressed with just his explosiveness. It seems like anytime he touches the ball, he's got a chance to score. But, of course, you've also got a guy who's got to throw to him, and Matthew Castillo.
Right.
A guy who had some limited action last year but has stepped in, and it looks like your offense, even with a new quarterback with Matthew, it seems like they haven't missed a beat.
No, not at all. Matthew waited his turn. He learned from good quarterbacks ahead of him, Leandre Williams last year and Seth Gonzalez the year before. He was very patient, absorbed everything, took everything in, and he was pretty much ready to take over. Spring ball, he had a great spring last May, and he stepped in and has done an outstanding job for us.
This is Coach Rene Hernandez of the El Paso Chapin Huskies joining us on DCTF Live. And, Coach, the other aspect of your team that's been so impressive has been your defense. And it seems like after your opening week loss, to a very good Eastwood team in which you guys still played excellent defense, it seems like something woke up in your team. What did you tell your team after that loss to Eastwood?
Not to get their heads down. They played an excellent game. We did everything we wanted to that night. We just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. We 6 times inside the 10-yard line, inside the 20 red zone, and we scored twice. but our defense played an outstanding job, gave us every opportunity to win. I had them keep their heads up, keep playing with passion, keep flying to the football, and they pretty much believed. Of course, we start 8 underclassmen on our defensive side, so it was their first time tasting varsity competition, and they grew up, and they've been growing up every week since, trying to get better, learning, doing what they need to do, and working hard, which has really benefited us.
You mentioned how young your defense is. One of the few seniors you guys do have is your outstanding linebacker, Tomas Mancinas. How important is he from a leadership perspective? Not just, obviously, he makes a lot of tackles. How important is he from a off-the-field perspective?
Well, he's a coach on the field for us as well as off the field, in the weight room, in the off season. He gets people going. When he speaks, the rest of the team listens. He's got that leadership. He's got that voice to be able to command respect. He's earned it, and it's everything. He leads by example. He works hard in the weight room. He works hard in the classroom. And it carries over to the football field, and the kids respect that, and they love what he does, and they really look up to what he does and how he does it, and everybody kind of follows along, especially on the defensive side. But he talks to everybody, no matter what side of the ball you're on. He leads both sides, and he's a pleasure to have. We missed out on him last year. He missed out the last 4 or 5 games with an injury. Worked hard to get back, and it's paid off.
The other aspect of El Paso High School football is you guys tend to, when you get in the playoffs, there hasn't been a ton of success breaking through the teams, other teams in Region 1. Of course, last year, Canutillo breaks through, goes all the way to the state semifinals. From your perspective as another coach in El Paso, is that something you use as motivation to your kids to say, yeah, see, those guys down the road did it, we can do it too?
Oh, of course. Everybody, Canutillo set the bar high. Everybody was trying to win that third round game. Canutillo did and surpassed that. So it's something that we all look at. It's something that we want to do. At this point in time, we want to do more than any Chapin team has done, and we've had success here. But like you say, once we get out of town, nobody sees what we've done. Nobody really is impressed. So we got our work cut out for us. In town, we've taken care of business. Now we've got to find a way to break through and do something good toward the rest of the state of Texas, in our region especially, to begin. But what Canutillo did was very impressive. Everybody kind of looking to see what they did, how they did it, following along, and taking it from there. Hopefully we can do something and get going here in the playoffs.
One last question, Coach. Coach Rene Hernandez of the Chapin Huskies joins us on DCTF Live. I don't know if you know this, but El Paso's kind of way out there. You guys are a bit out of the way. For folks who have never been to a Friday night game in El Paso, give us a sense of what the Friday night atmosphere is like out there at a Chapin game.
Well, first of all, that is an understatement. We are way out here. Yes. People anywhere else think, not sure whether we're in New Mexico or Texas. But Friday nights here are big. We have schools here, and I don't know if anyone else in the rest of Texas realizes we actually have a school that's about 3 miles to the west of us, and then another school that's 2 miles to the east of us, another school that's about 3 miles south of us. So we're all clumped together here, on top of each other pretty much. So on Friday nights, every game is pretty much a rivalry game in your community. So everybody gathers along school-wise, and they march over, they parade over to the games, and it's a big thing, and they make a big deal out of every game that you play. And we're spread out everywhere. There's 30-plus schools in our county, so there's games all over the place on Friday nights, and there's excitement all around the town. And it's big. Trash talk and bragging rights on Saturday morning every week.
As you do out there. He is Rene Hernandez, the head coach of the El Paso Chapin Huskies, joining us on DCTF Live. Coach, thanks so much for joining us, and continued success the rest of the way.
Wow, thank you guys for having me.
There he goes, Rene Hernandez, head coach of the Chapin Huskies. Did you want to get a question in, Matt?
Get him back on.
Yeah, you want to get him back on?
If he's still on the line.
Have you been to El Paso?
Yes.
recently?
No, not recently, but Baylor played in the Sun Bowl
Yes, they
when
did.
I was in undergrad at Baylor and had some buddies on the team, and so went out there to support them. And yeah, I like El Paso. And I used to know, the one thing I would ask him is about, like, where is the best place to get tamales in El Paso?
Let me tell you, anywhere.
Yeah.
As somebody, I
Yeah.
went out there with the secondary feature in the 2015 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. It was about El Paso football. They had a team make it to the semifinals for the first time ever last year. And so I went out there, and first time I'd ever been to El Paso. Beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous out there. Some of the best food I've ever eaten. And then I actually wrapped up my interviews early. I drove back. From El Paso. I drove from El Paso to Dallas over 2 days. I stopped in Odessa, but
Oh man,
that's a fun drive.
a must-see Odessa.
If you are into road trips, highly recommend the El Paso to Dallas jaunt. It's a brief 12
especially
hours.
as a
Yeah.
football tourist. There's some
Oh my gosh.
pretty cool stops along
Yeah,
the
if
way.
you're
The-
into
the,
stadiums.
The tour I want to do is the 6-man football tour. There's some buddies of mine that have gone out to is it Penelope?
Mhm.
Does that ring a bell?
Wolverines.
Yeah, and have done some of that, and yeah, I've just had some buddies' dads who were like sort of famous 6-man football players back in the day, and I think that would be fun.
Have you ever
to go
been to a
check that
6-man
out.
game?
I can't say that I have.
It is
High octane.
basketball on turf. It
Yeah.
is once you see it, it will change the way you watch football forever. It's great.
Yeah.
So the state title games are going to be in Abilene if you want to go out there.
6-man state title in Abilene.
Yeah, it'll be December
before?
December 12th-ish. I don't have my
Yeah,
calendar
right
up.
then.
December 12th,
Yeah.
a week before the state title games, the 11-man down at NRG Stadium. You should go. Do yourself a favor. Go to a 6-man game.
Which is the thing that they were supposed to have at AT&T Stadium, but like there was a scheduling conflict.
title
and they
games,
moved
yeah.
it
all
to,
of them, yeah.
to
all the
Abilene.
all the 11-man state title games. So when Kaufman makes the title game, they'll play down at NRG
At
Stadium.
NRG, yeah.
I don't know why you're laughing. They're gonna
Yeah.
go.
I think
Lions.
there's a chance.
They
I'm
look
telling
good.
you.
They
Yeah.
look good. He is Matt Mosley. See his fine work, or listen to his fine work on ESPN 103.3 FM in Dallas. That's going to do it for DCTF Live. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see our work at texasfootball.com. Vince Young, please come get your Player of the Year trophy. And we will see you tomorrow on DCTF Live.